Hey everyone, it's Jetgirl here, and today we're going to be setting up my Floyd Rose on my Yamaha RGZ from the 80s. This is one of the first guitars that I ever got and has always been one of my favorites. But the old plastics have started to crack, leaving the input jack in pieces. I've been wanting to set up a Floyd for the first time, so I thought I might as well try replacing the jack. Before I start tackling the Floyd though, I'm going to remove the back plate for later. In order to keep the Floyd from getting out of whack while you're changing the strings, you want it to stay level. There's a lot of ways you can do this, but I'll be using my lovely cardboard contraption to do the job. You want to make sure that the Floyd stays flat and that whatever you use to block it keeps it in place. Once that's done, you can remove the locking nut. My dog Zoomer will also be giving me a hand today. Next up is loosening the strings. Before I took them all the way off, I wanted to double check that the bridge wasn't moving. That was good, so it's time to take the strings all the way off. The bridge under the strings are pinched into place, so you'll need to loosen the screws in order to get the string out. With the strings off and the Floyd still even, it's time to give the guitar a nice shine. The neck had extra gunk on it, so I had to pull out the drill just to make sure those frets looked brand new. The tuners were a bit loose, so I used a deep well socket to tighten them up. Before I start on the strings, I have to address the elephant in the room. That would be the input jack. The jack had plastics keeping together, and not too long ago when I went to plug the guitar in, the jack basically just crumbled to pieces. Luckily, I've got a spare jack, so I'll be replacing it. At this point, I had read a schematic and looked at how the original was to figure out how to solder it correctly, but we'll see later that I did not do it right. With the jack cooled off and back in place, it's time to put on a fresh set of Ernie Ball 8-gauge strings. In order to put the strings into the locks on the Floyd, you'll need to trim off the ball end of the strings. A lot of people recommend just threading the string at the tuner from the ball end, but I prefer to wrap my strings the normal way. I put a little bit of a bend in the string so that it would sit in the bridge a little bit easier, and then I tighten the screws to clamp down on the string. Once that's done, you can wrap the strings as you would normally. If you're not sure how to put strings on a guitar yet, that's okay. Check the link in my description for a video on how to do that. With all the strings on, I went ahead and tested the jack by plugging it in, and I wasn't getting any sound out of it. So I used my ohm reader to see that the ground connection was being messed with because I soldered it to the back piece. This jack is different than the original, so despite the other one being soldered like that, I didn't actually need to do the same here. So I resolder the ground wire. With the input jack working, we can move on to the next step. For this part, you're going to need some cardboard, or if you have it, a feeler gauge. I'll be using a feeler gauge since I have one. Since I'll need to be loosening the string tension, I'm going to be putting the feeler gauge in between the springs and the bridge in the back. It should fit nice and snug and not move anywhere. If you were needing to tighten the spring tension, you would need to put it on the other side between the bridge and the body. Make sure that the Floyd is still sitting flat, and then remove the cardboard from earlier. The feeler gauge should keep the bridge in place. Now before you loosen or tighten anything, make sure that the guitar is in tune. If it's not in tune, this will mess up the process. The way the feeler gauge comes into play is when the tension of the strings and the springs is even, it'll slide right out of the back. I'm putting on a smaller gauge string than before, so that's why I'll be loosening the spring tension. I made small adjustments to the tension on the springs while making sure that the guitar stayed in tune. Eventually, the feeler gauge slid right out of the back, and I made sure that the springs were even. Make sure to tune the strings up one more time, and if everything went smoothly, your Floyd should be sitting level. With everything in the right place, I think it's time for a test drive. I think for my first ever setup for a Floyd, everything went pretty well. Let me know what you think in the comments though. Now it's time for everyone's favorite part of the video, where I clean up all of the stuff that I got out. Last but not least is to do a quick re-clean to remove my dirty fingerprints and to screw the backplate back on. Now for a final reveal. Look at how shiny and new everything looks. I hope you enjoyed the video. Thanks for watching!